All right. Yo, what's up? Gonna start up in a second. Hey, Calgary, if you can just let me know if the audio is going through and the video. And could somebody here in Vancouver watch the Calgary Slack for me? As in, like, could somebody say that they're watching the Calgary Slack? Right. I mean, cool. Sweet, sweet. I mean, more than one of you can, too. Like, that's cool. I mean, I'm not paying you, but cool. All right, just a sec. There we go. Calgary 14th. All right. Nolan, what's up? So, hey, how's it going? Yet another day in paradise. What? Oh man, more programming. So I made a horrible mistake this weekend. Made a really bad mistake. For those, I mean, I guess in Calgary as well. Like, just ask Travis about how our weekend was. Just ask him if he shows up today. Actually, he won't show up today. I think he takes work from home days on Tuesday. But we went to a hackathon. It was fantastic. It was very good. But at the same time, yo, lack of sleep as an adult, word up, that messes you up. Like, that is, oh man, do I not recommend that. So that's a whole thing. I did want to start off by saying, like, totally go to hackathons. Yo, they're so worth it. If you're ever like, I don't have enough stuff on my resume, you'll end up with a new project, so that's cool. If you're ever like, man, my sleep cycle needs a reset, hackathon's good for you too. Actually, I do want to shout out. It was a city of Vancouver. It's called Decode Congestion. It's pretty cool. Not as in like nasal congestion, but like traffic. It was a traffic-themed hackathon. So we made like a Pokemon Go, but for buses. You like unlock bus drivers when you get on the bus, and then you can like deck them out with gear, like armor and stuff. And you play mini games that are like collecting data. It'd be like, oh, like how many pedestrians do you see? And you have to like count the pedestrians. So you're like collecting data for the city of Vancouver. But when you play the mini games, like you might win some loot that you can put on your bus drivers. You can have a roster of bus drivers, and that makes them stronger. And the whole purpose of it is, you know, when two buses drive by each other, and the bus drivers like wave at each other, we reframed that as like jousting. So we're just like, oh, like the bus drivers are like, they're like, so you're on the bus, and every once in a while it might go like, oh, there's a joust incoming, right? And like your bus has been selected to joust against another one, so you have to press like a button really fast. Like, you know, the bus driver has armor, it might be on a roster, but also you're like giving a bonus when you tap, and so like they just pass by each other, and one of them wins or whatever. That's a profoundly stupid idea. But I'd been pitching it to students for their final project for like, honestly, a couple months. People are like, oh, what should we do for a project? I'm like, dude, bus jousting, of course. No one took me up on it. I said, fine, we'll do it. And we did. It worked out. It was awesome. But yeah, ask Travis about it, because like he made the visuals for it, and it's honestly pretty funny. I don't want to steal credit for like his work, so next time he's lecturing, be like, hey Travis, can you see the bus jousting app? And he'll show you. So, how are y'all doing today? How's your Monday? How much do you like coming in on stat holidays? That was a good one, right? Nice. Yeah, you excited to stay in for Christmas? Actually, you'll be done by Christmas, won't you? No? No. Oh, man. Oh, you cross over into the new year. Oh, whew. That is rough. All right, well, let's get into it. So database design. You've been talking about SQL. So we'll go right here. We'll go SQL is the thing. I loosely, kind of lightly trashed SQL last week, I think, during one of the lectures. Like, yo, SQL is weak. It's got bad rhymes. It's got no, I don't know. I don't like SQL very much, but part of it is because you have to put yourself in a certain mindset for it. And I find that, it's a mindset that's difficult for me to get into. Part of it, though, is just that I haven't practiced it very much, right? I do everything I can to kind of avoid it. But eventually, it comes back to bite me. Specifically, there's two cases where SQL comes back to bite me. One of them is sometimes I have to lecture about it. That gets pretty bad. But the other one is that if you're making a full stack application, you kind of need a database. And the most obvious and really standard choice for a database is going to be a relational database. And relational databases are great. Relational databases themselves have a very kind of clear mindset on how you think about the way that you store data for an application. It might not be immediately intuitive. We're going to go through a couple exercises today. And what my recommendation is at the end of this lecture is to not just stop at this week in terms of how much you think about databases, and not to just stop at oh, well, I'll just do this. We're going to do a thing called an ERD. I don't want you to think that ERDs are just a thing when you work on projects. I want you to try and turn this into a mental exercise, because you'll see it's the kind of thing that you can kind of do on the bus, in transit, maybe when you're lying in bed at night thinking about all the mistakes you've made. Turn it into an ERD discussion. Try to organize the mistakes. You're these are family. This is relationship, this is career mistakes. You'll see how you can actually, we might do that. Our ERD theme is mistakes we've made in our lives. That might be one of the things that we'll try to organize in an entity relationship diagram. So SQL, you had a lecture about it yesterday. I think Andy would have been. Yeah, Andy took you through a couple different queries. Specifically, the kind of queries that you did yesterday. You did sort of select, and then just a whole bunch of variations on select. Right? Because a database is a place that you put stuff into, and you might want to read stuff from there, right? It's not one of those thought journals that you just write and then you close it and you're I'm never going to look at those dark thoughts ever again. This is the kind of thing that you want to be able to quickly be able to pull stuff from. Right? So select is going to be important for reading from, but what you were working with yesterday was a database that had a structure that was already designed, and it gives you basically a structure that becomes easy to pull data out of. Right? But that's something that somebody has to put some thought into. And we're going to look at that process today. How do we decide how to create our tables? Not really even necessarily going to be talking too much about the code for it. The code for it is a thing. You'll learn it. But the code is very specific to SQL. I want us to think about more on the abstract level of I know these subheadings are not actually being filled out with anything, but what we're looking at today is how to pull a data diagram out of an app idea. Right? We're going to take ourselves through particular app ideas, and over the course of working on these, we'll find that we discover a fairly kind of recipe-like format for building this stuff up. I do want to be kind of clear, though, before I even start, that there's a recipe for it, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's only one answer to the stuff that we do. Right? I'll show you different ways of approaching the same thing. So first of all, how do you like SQL? Good stuff? Good time? Nice. Maybe Nemo's wrong. Maybe SQL's great. What do you know about ERD so far? What does ERD stand for? Okay, that's good. Just want to make sure. Oh no, I want to make sure you know almost nothing about ERD. So we'll start with that. What is an ERD? ERD? Ermagerd? What is an ERD? So an ERD is an entity relationship diagram. An ERD is an entity relationship diagram. This is going to be a visual representation of how some data is structured. You might find this stuff actually pretty interesting. I know my dad does, for example. All my dad does is, I mean, that wasn't a joke. He does. This is all my dad does is, like, he's a database architect. So if you really want to have a fun conversation with someone about data, my dad. But the reason I bring this up is because coding or programming, and generally software development, isn't just about like, oh, it's code, I'm in. How many lines of code do you have, bruh? Like that's not what coding is. Coding is mostly on the whiteboard. It's mostly in meetings, like so many meetings. It's a good time. Coding is mostly, talking to clients, talking to other people on your team to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page. You will rarely be working as the sole developer on something, right? In fact, you should kind of strive to be on a team in the early part of your career, so you can learn by like osmosis and by exposure to other people. So an entity relationship diagram is a visual representation of some part of your system. There are languages that people use to describe systems. For example, here's a thing called UML. UML is the Unified Modeling Language. Yeah. You're going to find some things, if you look up UML, you'll find some things that are very similar to what we're doing today. UML is like a very, very standardized way of using pictures and diagrams to sketch out how a system is built. Right? So gigantic systems. I mean, maybe it's water filtration kind of thing, and it's made up of lots of pieces. Or maybe it's Facebook. Maybe it's just a social network. Right? Maybe it's Tiny App. Chances are is it's going to be made up of lots of smaller things. In this case here, we're looking at some situation that describes like a car, right? And a car is going to, be a car, and a car will have a registration number and a year and a license plate. And in this case here, they've also put down a couple of the things that the car can do. Like for example, a car can move forward. It can move backward. Ooh, it can stop. That's good. It should be able to. And there's other things. A car is made up of a gearbox, right? And a gearbox maybe of a type. Right? A car might have some suspension, which is then connected to a wheel, which has both a tire and a brake. Right? And maybe the brake is controlled by the car. So what I'm trying to show you here is that before we even start writing some code, we can start breaking this stuff down into like big components. And that actually gives us a little bit of an ability to say, hey, you know what? How about you take care of this part, right? Or how about you take care of this part? Right? And the other part that's nice about this is like we can start switching bits and pieces out. Right? Here's another one. Here's another diagram. The UML diagram. You're not going to be building this stuff right now. UML also has little stick people as part of it to represent like users and input to your applications. So I do want to recommend that maybe after this lecture, right? We're not going to explore this any further during this lecture, but like maybe look at what UML is. You don't need to learn it, but have a basic understanding that there are ways to sketch out your project. I bring this up just because when people start learning to code, people get very stuck on lines of code, right? And the thing is, you're not just a code monkey. Like you are developers, meaning you take problems and you engineer solutions out of them. A big part of that is identifying what the problem is. And many times when I find that people get stuck on writing code, it's because you don't understand what the problem is, and you can't write code if you don't know what you're trying to solve. Right? And a lot of people, like mentors and whatever, will tell you including me, like we'll tell you to like hop on. Have you done any whiteboarding? Have you gone on on a notebook and started drawing this stuff out? And for people who are new, you're like, what the heck does that mean? What am I supposed to draw? There's no syntax highlighting in my notebook. And this is kind of the stuff that I'm going to mean. So an entity relationship diagram is a very specific kind of part of stuff like UML. It's not UML, but it's stuff like that. Where what we're really looking at, right, is not necessarily how the entire system is built up, right, but at least like what data is in our system, right? What data is our system built up of, and like how do we like collect that stuff together, right? And collect that stuff together in a meaningful way, in both a way that's like easy to use, but also just easy to understand, and how do we avoid redundancy? That's something we're going to explore. So in order for me to like really talk about this stuff in any meaningful way, we need to actually like come up with a theme. So this is one example of a theme, but can I have like a couple more, because we're going to do multiple things over the course of the lecture. So for example, this theme here is, an application that lets people catalog and maybe share with each other the mistakes that they've made in their lives. And instead of liking something, people get to go like, oh yeah, no, you messed up there. Like that's what this application is. What else? Like what other kinds of applications could we build? If you have a pet project that you want to work on, this is a good chance to see me do the work on your project. Anyone got a startup that you want to start? Let's see, anyone from Calgary? All right, I'll throw something down. A coffee shop. Right. We'll also say, did you do an example with quizzes in a classroom before? No? Okay, so we'll do like quizzes, like a system that maybe has like quizzes for people, sort of like you do in Compass. Right? And we'll take a look at how like the data for that might be collected. In fact, let's start off with coffee shop, then quizzes, and then we might do mistakes we've made in our lives. So if I say that the idea here is coffee shop, now I want to start off by saying that like I'm not going to be writing code likely in the first half of this. Right? This is mostly going to be ideation, and I really do want you to put some work into this. And what I might even do in the second half is just like break you up and make you do work independently, like in small groups. But we'll start off with this coffee shop idea. So what does a coffee shop have? We want to make a system that like helps out employees at a coffee shop, maybe keep track of things and all that. Like, what are some of the things that this application might do? Beans, right? Right. So a coffee shop might have. Do we have one bean? We might have like many different kinds of beans, right? Cool. So how many different kinds of coffee beans? For example, the Nim bean, a very coveted bean. Here's another bean, the fava bean. Fava bean coffee. Yum. Hot fava water. And then other beans, jelly bean, right? Lots of different beans. What else does our coffee shop maybe have? Right? So we might have a point of sale system, right? So point of sale system. And so the point of sale system, generally is going to mean that like we sell things, right? So that's telling me that maybe we have customers, right? Maybe, like, what do people buy? They buy coffee, right? So like customers might buy coffee. Coffee is a thing we sell. And maybe we have different kinds of coffee, right? Made with different beans. But then the other thing is like there might be different kinds of coffee drinks, right? For example, so we might have like things like an espresso, right? An Americano. I don't drink coffee. A latte. I'm Italian. I read this as latte, which means milk. There's no coffee in milk. That's just milk. In Italian, we call it a cafe latte. But fine, y'all North Americans. All right, so we got espresso, Americano, latte. Maybe we'll leave it as that. And they're made with different beans. Are all the drinks? We'll say that the drinks are all their own unique size for now. Like espresso is one size, Americano is a different size, and latte is a different size. But maybe as we want to make this more and more complicated, we'll have to include that in there. So I'll just write that as a question. Are there different sizes? And then I don't know, what else what else might we have at a coffee shop? Cookies? Sweet. We might have cookies. Right? And we'll say that there's we'll say that for now there's one kind of cookie. Right? Just to make this kind of weird. A single kind of cookie. And that's oatmeal raisin cookie. Ugh. What? Who goes to this coffee shop? Ugh. The oatmeal raisin cookie. And I'm gonna throw one last one down. There's baristas at coffee shops, right? You're gonna have someone. This isn't like a robot coffee shop yet. It's real people you have to talk to, and you say, "Hello, I'd like to buy a coffee," and they go, "Okay," and they make it. Just general coffee interaction. So, whenever you start a project, you have to take yourself through this kind of process, and usually this process involves multiple people. Let's say that you're a person who owns a company and you're building something for somebody else. Right? You might meet with them several times and go, okay, how many coffees are you gonna have though? How many? Okay, are there different kinds of coffee beans? All right. Are your employees, do they get paid differently, or are they paid all the same? Right? Do they all have the same name? What your employees, do they work different shifts? And you really have to grill people about this. It is usually non-technical people will just be just make me the website. Just make it pop. All right? Just make it pop. And you're it doesn't work that way. And so there's the design aspect of it, but then there's also the functionality aspect of it. Non-technical people aren't usually aware of. But as you sit down and you kind of run yourself through basically what we're going to be calling user stories, and then you start getting a better idea of the system that actually needs to be built, and what data do we even really need to kind of fulfill that system requirement. So this whole process, already, I hope you can kind of see the usefulness of it, is that I've got stuff down on paper, right? Okay, not on paper. I got stuff down on digital paper, and it's something that I can refer back to. And if a customer later on says, "Wait, what about tea?" I'm like, "You did not say anything about tea when we met for the thing, all right? That's not in the system. Let's figure it out." And once I've got this kind of written out, what I like to do is I take myself through this and I try to identify, places where maybe I haven't expanded enough. For example, I said, "We sell things." It's not very descriptive, Nima. All right, a customer can make a purchase. A customer can make a purchase, and I'm being a little bit more explicit. Okay, well, we have a purchase. A purchase is made between a customer, a barista. There's also the particular drinks that were bought. Right? How many drinks were bought, and also cookie number. Right? How many cookies does this person buy? And then maybe finally a total price. Right? And now I look at this, I'm oh, right, I should be able to calculate the total price. Right? I should be able to calculate this. And I look at the rest of it. I haven't really written a price for anything here yet. So I might go ahead and start writing stuff down and say, okay, an espresso is, I don't know, $10. That is Americano. We'll go $5. A latte, milk is free. It comes out of the tap, so that's $3. Not is that just me? Yeah. So a latte is gonna be $30, right? Just to have some very different prices here. And I want you to see that once you started writing this stuff down, really what you're ending up with is a list of information that you can very quickly kind of refer to. And at this point, I might even say, what the heck do we even need a computer for? And you just have one dedicated person who sits at a notebook, and the notebook is formatted ahead of time. And anytime somebody makes an order, that person goes, and all right, I'll write it in the notebook. Right? Flip. And then someone asks, oh, but how much did Steve pay on January 27th, 2018? And how much coffee did Steve buy? And I go, oh, man, I didn't write that in here. So maybe let me also say that a purchase takes place on a particular date. Right? And then that gives me the ability to just search through my notebook. And it'll take some time. Right? Like, it'll take some time to find that information in the notebook, but we know it's there. Right? And that's the important part. Now, obviously, we can't really anymore just pay someone to sit there with a notebook, 24/7 and be able to ask them questions. We have to have those kind of automated. Right? But there's the benefit of us having already started thinking in this kind of tabular format. That's going to make it fairly pain-free to translate over to an automated system. One of the places that we might start is starting with something like Google Sheets. We might start with something like a spreadsheet, right? And, not impossible to start thinking about the fact that, and I don't know how to use Sheets. I know a lot of people are Excel wizards or whatever. All I know is that you can color the blocks, which is cool. So I might go here and I might say, okay, so a drink. A drink might have a name, it might have a size, and it might have a cost. Right? And I could, here we go, and I'll just color it nicely. That makes me feel nice. And then I go, this is my espresso. And this is my size. It's 12 ounces, or whatever imperial units are. A latte is about a gallon. Is that a gallon, a latte? Has anyone here seen the Whitest Kids You Know sketch? Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. So we got espresso, we got a latte, and then the other one was an Americano. An Americano is 3 meters cubed. Right? Just I mixed up your units. And then these cost different things. So that was $10, latte was $30, and I think the Americano was $5. Huh? It was 3? Yeah. A gallon of a latte. $30 for a gallon actually doesn't seem unfair. When you first see the prices, you're like, oh, this is unreasonable. And then you're like, a gallon. I kind of understand. That'll last you a day or two. I don't drink coffee. I don't know. So here's my drinks. And then I might say this is pretty good. And I go ahead and I make another one for, we'll just say purchases for the moment. Right? And a purchase was made by a customer. Right? They bought a particular drinks. Right? Bought some drinks at a time, and there was also a date, whatever. There was a total price, and then we'll just say that there's also the name of the barista. Right? Barista name. And I'm gonna go ahead and pick a different color for this. Bazap! Look at that. It's like I'm an accountant. And I found out you can, if here's some quick Sheets stuff. If you highlight all of these, and then you go and you can just change their color too. So no, so I might have different customers like Bob, Jane, and Brad, and then they might have bought different drinks. But I run into a problem right off the bat where I ask myself, how many drinks did Bob buy? Maybe Bob was really thirsty that day. Bob bought 2 gallons of lattes and an espresso. The espresso is just for the road. Right. So Bob bought 2 gallons of lattes, so 2 lattes, 1 espresso. At a particular date for a particular total price, and maybe the barista was Christopheretta. Right? Now, as different people buy more drinks, right? As different people make more purchases, I know I didn't put the cookie number and whatever in here. I wanted to go like big an idea and then just kind of scope it down quite a bit. As Jane buys stuff, so maybe Jane buys 4 espressos. It's a big day, and then I mean honestly, you got to get the gallon of the latte. It's a steal for $30. That's a steal. I started asking myself questions about like how many lattes were bought, or how many espressos were purchased this month. Questions like that, because those are the questions that like business people are going to want to know, right? The business person who comes up to me and asks me to build this like cafe system, they're going to have pretty strict requirements on like, well, the reason I want this whole cafe system is so that I can ask interesting questions, such as who should I fire? Should I start selling Americanos in gallons, right? Like things like that. You thinking about 3 meters cubed of Americanos? Yeah, is 3 meters cubed like too much? Business people are going to have those kinds of questions, and you're going to need to like create a system that's going to allow for those questions to be answered. Now, it's not necessarily impossible for someone to like again just go through this list, right, and count up all the lattes and all that. But one of the issues that we run into when we store values like this is that I can say that maybe each one of these columns has a specific type, right? Like maybe names, like those are all words. Cost, those are all numbers. So it makes it easy for me to add things up, right? What is drinks right now? What's that? It's numbers and words, right? It's a whole kind of mix of things. So if I wanted to try and write a script to kind of go ahead and add values, I'm not going to do that right now, but I want you to start imagining that might be a little difficult. Right, because I need to write my script to be like extra smart, to be able to split when am I talking about lattes, when am I talking about espressos. So we might say, okay, well maybe the first entry is lattes, comma, espresso. And then I look at this and I go, oh, Nima, like what did you do? You got this backwards, right? I'm already making mistakes. So it might be better for me to kind of try to figure out a different way to structure this together. So one thing that I could do is maybe go over here and make myself, or I'll do that slightly under, go over here and make myself another table, right? And this is going to be a table that connects customers and the drinks that they bought, right? So I might even call this like purchased drinks, right? And maybe this table itself, all that this table does is it says, okay, for a particular client, or I think I called them customers, for a particular customer and a particular purchase, right? This is the drink that they bought. Right? So there might be more than one entry per purchase and per client, right? So for example, this purchase here, which I might give, I'm just going to move this a little bit. Is that not a thing I can do? Boop. That's also not a thing I can do. Hey, there you go, wizard. So something that I might say to myself here is, okay, well, I want to refer to a particular purchase that somebody's making. I might say that, okay, Bob, for their first purchase, right? So Bob's very first purchase, they bought 2 lattes, right? Or I might even just say latte. And then since they bought 2 of them, I might do 2. Here's another one, 2 lattes. And then they also bought 1 espresso. So I might say Bob, their first purchase, bought an espresso. Right. And I take myself through this and I ask, okay, am I able to ask in a pretty easy way, like for Bob's first purchase, what did he buy? So I go, okay, Bob, first purchase, bought a latte, and an espresso. And that's kind of all just tabular there, and it's nice to look at. Now, this isn't perfect. Right? First reason this isn't perfect is because I didn't color this nicely. So we'll make that, nope, blue's already been used. We're going to do a nice little violet. So maybe that's the first reason this isn't nice, is that it wasn't colored properly. But the second reason this isn't nice is because I had to use the word first here for purchase, right? Because if Bob makes a second purchase here, Bob goes again, and this time Bob's like really hooked on those lattes. Give me 5, 3 for me, 2 for my family. No espressos. Bob's like, I don't even need that. I'm taking 1 latte for the road. Now I have to go ahead and say, okay, well, maybe for Bob's second purchase. Right, so Bob has made many purchases. Maybe this is the second one, and then I put in like latte just 5 times. Right. Well, you see that something like this works, but it's really probably not the best way to do this. So you kind of started looking at something like this yesterday. What is one solution for me to start making this look a little bit nicer? Right. I might want to add a quantity, right? Like that might be nice. Maybe instead of latte for the drink that on its own, like I might have a quantity value, and then I'd be able to say, oh, bought 2 lattes that time, bought 5 lattes that time, bought 1, right? That's absolutely something I can do, right? Absolutely. There's another thing as well. I want to focus in on this purchase issue here, right? Whoops. I want to be able to tie this list of purchased drinks over to the actual purchases, right? So this purchased drink was for a particular purchase. One thing I can do is actually give each purchase an identifier. Right? So this is purchase 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? Purchase 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then what I can do over here is instead of using these weird like first words or whatever, then I might say that this here is for purchase 1 in the system. Right? 1. So that's for purchase 1. Right. These other ones here, these lattes, what purchase were they for? Purchase 4. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, well, the information for these ones here, and just watch me not know how to use sheets. So can I edit all of these at the same time? So like. Oh, man. Yeah, this is a hard game. All right. Huh? Oh, shoot. No, not again. All right, so 2, oh, no, 4. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. I'm keeping you on your toes. What's that? Yeah. I gotta add Google Sheets to the curriculum now. And now this one's going to be blue. All right, whatever. So I'm trying to show you here is that like now I'm able to have some information in here. I could get rid of this entire drinks column. Boop. Get rid of it. And now whenever I want to find the purchases for this particular, or like the purchased drinks for this particular purchase, I can go to the table for it. Right? And I'll just know in the table, hey, you know what? If I want to relate each of these things to a particular purchase, it's got an ID there. Right? There's a particular word or a name for what we're doing here. Well, what's that called? So one thing that we can do is when we look at this table, each one of the entries here, we can call it a column. If we were to think of this as an object, right, then each of these columns could be a key, for example, right? Like key value. So key customer for this instance gives me the value Bob, right? Key purchase for this instance here gives me the value for it. Right? So these are essentially like key value pairs, but in like a table format. Well, not necessarily entities, but I want us to see like what kind of key is this? It's a foreign key, right? This isn't a key that's supposed to exist in this table like on its own. This is a key that relates to something else. Right? Bob here makes sense as a word. Bob. Latte makes sense. I look at latte and I go, okay, latte. Gallon of latte. Like I know how that works. But I look at 1 and I'm like, I don't know what this means. For me to have a full picture of this, I need to go ahead and actually look at another table. Right? That's what foreign key is going to mean, is that this is partial information. This is information that relates to another table, and if you want to get the full picture, you have to move over to another table to get the rest of the info. This is a good thing, because otherwise, I'm going to have to, for all my purchases, go like this is purchase drink 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and maybe put as many columns as people can purchase drinks. But what if somebody wants to come in with like $1,000? They might buy like 6 gallons of lattes and a couple cookies, right? Like, I need to have enough columns to like accommodate that, and that becomes a problem. Right? So instead, I might make, just like I did right here, its own table, so that you can theoretically buy as many things as you want with one purchase. Right? Are there questions about this part right now? There is something in here that I actually don't need. Right? Specifically in the purchase drinks, there's something that I definitely don't need right now. And what is that? I don't need customer. Right? And why is that? Because we have it in another table, right? So the customer is going to have the purchase, or the purchase is going to have the customer name. Right? So if I'm following over through to the purchase drinks, I don't really need to know who bought it. Right? That whole thing is kind of garbage, because I can just look up what purchase was it for, and then see the name of the person. There's nothing wrong with me putting the name in there, right? Like, the police isn't going to come knocking and like, oh, your database. Well, my dad might get angry, but that's about it, right? What really matters is just that now we have a smaller diagram, right? There's less stuff to kind of think about, right? And that can lend itself to being a little bit clearer to work with. But we'll also explore, I think in the second half, I'm going to come up with an example where it really does make sense for us to definitely not keep that data there. So in this situation here, we've done this in a spreadsheet, essentially. Right? You're not necessarily going to be working with spreadsheets as a developer. If you are, leave. Like, that's not... Don't work at companies like that, I guess. But what we might use is something like draw.io. Has anyone here seen draw.io before? Right? Pretty neat. We go create new diagram. I'll have a link to this in a sec. A blank diagram. Are there, let's see, are there UMLs under there? Maybe. There's like all kinds of diagrams that you can make, but we'll just go basic. And you'll create, it gives you this fancy, nice little place to start dragging boxes in. What the heck? Got myself some boxes. And then in the boxes, something I might do is start relating boxes to other boxes. I might say something like, there are, we'll say there are purchases. Okay, purchases. And we won't have any lines or dots yet. There are maybe drinks. Okay, and there were also purchased drinks. Okay. Purchases, drinks, and purchased drinks. Now we know that a purchased drink has to be a drink. Right? So there's some kind of relationship. Whoops. There's some kind of relationship between this idea of a purchased drink. Just go up. No, please. Between a purchased drink and a drink. Right? Ignore the type of arrow right now, but there's some kind of relationship. In fact, I could even go, no, just, I don't want it to end like that. Okay, whatever, we'll just have one line like that. And there's bound to be some relationship between purchases and purchased drinks. And I ask myself, how many purchased drinks are there in a purchase? Is it 1? 2? There's many. Right? So there's going to be many purchased drinks in a purchase. So I can pick the. You can tell that I don't actually use draw. Okay, so I usually do this on a whiteboard, but the whiteboard doesn't show up for Calgary. So I'm going to do this. No, please. No. Okay. Okay, we're going to use a different tool in the second half of the lecture. There we go. There are, there are many purchased drinks for one purchase. Right? So one purchase is going to have many purchased drinks. How many purchases is each purchased drink for? Right? One, right? I don't, like, unless I have some, like, super kind of hip place, like, I don't share my gallon of latte with, like, 4 people. Like, yo, let's go splitsies on this gallon, though. Maybe that is what I want, and then I'd have to go, like, many to many or something, right? But I get to go one to many because a purchased drink belongs to a single purchase, right? And then here, between drinks and purchased drinks, each purchased drink, how many drinks is it? It's one, right? You know, it wasn't in my stories to say that, like, you can get a gallon of espresso and then, like, sprinkle in, like, no, not, whoops, that's bad. Gallon of espresso is a lot. Gallon of latte, that's reasonable. And put in, like a meter cubed of Americano. Like, that wasn't something that was in our stories. I might want to sit down with my client, right, the person who's asking me to make the system, and go, okay, first of all, I'm not even going to address the unreasonable units that you're using for your company. Like, I'm not going to address your business plan, but I need to know these things are distinct, right? And then the client's going to be like, oh, yeah, totally. You go, okay, well, then that's good. That's how I'm going to build my system. But let me ask you this. Each drink, how many purchased drinks can be made with a drink? I'll phrase that weird. How many purchased drinks can there be of a drink? One? So that might, again, come down to me having phrased this properly. If there are espressos, how many purchases of espressos can there be? Many, right? An arbitrary kind of number of espressos. So bear with me for a second while I... why? So... Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong because you're right. But at this point, like, I just kind of have to. Is there an integer relation? No. Like, why wouldn't I use this? That's so much better. Is this the part where I say, like, I left this as an exercise for the student to see what mistakes I made? It was ooh, tricky. Yeah, so we'll go back to Nima's kind of, like, super rough. Like, this is the ERD they tell you not to worry about. This is you. Father, why have you done this? What we've done here is we've very successfully created a many-to-many relationship, because purchases can include many drinks, and drinks can be included in many purchases. Right? This was, not necessarily as easy as, let me pick one of those fancy, schmancy. Here'd you go. There's too many types. There we go. This wasn't necessarily as easy as using one of these. Just boop. Like, I couldn't necessarily just go, purchases. Like, there are many drinks for a purchase, and for a drink there are many purchases, because I want you to go from this picture and take a thought about, like, what this would look like as a spreadsheet. Right? How am I necessarily even going to encode this as a spreadsheet? Right? I can't think of a nice scalable solution other than to, like I had, maybe originally started doing, write these out as commas over here. But then what I lose is the fact that, like, I can't really necessarily search through those purchases anymore. Right? So we're going to end this first half on a thought. And that thought is, there are only really one kind of relationship between the entities that we come up with. And that's the one-to-many relationship. Right? One-to-many is the only real relationship. Because one-to-one, like, why even have that? Right? If I have a spreadsheet that says purchases happened on a date, and then I make myself a thing that's like, this is the date, and the column in the date is date. And this was a terrible example. Okay, you know what? We'll do this. Purchases have a total price, so I have a special column or a special table called total prices, and then I give them an ID, and then I give them a total, like a value, right? So I say, for purchase 1, it has total price of, look at the table for prices, and that's ID 1, and this was 50, right? And this one here, this one was 2. I go over here and I say 2, and this one was 25, right? This is just kind of like a lot of busy work, because honestly, I could just take these values and put them in the total price. I don't need a separate table to have this like one-to-one relationship. Right? That could just be another column. On the other hand, we've seen one-to-many relationships make quite a bit of sense. Right? And many-to-many relationships are kind of virtually impossible to encode in a sheet. Right? And what I'm going to have is one-to-one garbage, and then many-to-many. I mean, really, you need like 2 one-to-many relationships to make this work. Right? A many-to-many relationship isn't a real thing. It's a thought. Right? But when we actually build it, it has to be this idea here of having a table in the middle that connects through one-to-many and one-to-many this way. So that's the thought I want to leave us on for this first half, is the types of relationships there are, namely one-to-many. And the other thought is, I want you to see that like this doesn't involve any programming, right? And I want you to start thinking about maybe doing this stuff on the regular as you're going through boot camp, right? Because it'll make parts of, say, your final project or your midterm project being like late this week. Ooh, who's excited for that? It'll make parts of that like a lot easier if you just develop this practice. Are there questions at the moment? Yep.
So right now we're saying for each purchase drink we could have many drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And for each purchase
No.
purchase could have.
So each purchase can have many purchased drinks, and every drink can be, purchased many times, right? So I could have, I have espresso, and then lots of different people might buy espressos for many different purchases. That's the idea here.
And then finally when we connect the purchases and drinks.
Oh, like that connection that I made a second ago, this one here?
That's many to many.
Yeah, so this is not a real thing. I was just saying, we can't think of items necessarily in terms of code being written as this thing has a many-to-many relationship with this, because if I did something like this, I can't actually put that in a Google, I can't put that in a sheet. Right? So I might start off on a whiteboard going many-to-many, but when I actually break it down, it's going to have to turn into this.
With 2 parts actually establish the connection between.
That is exactly it. Yeah, so I'll rephrase that for Calgary again, because that's a really good way of putting it. These 2 parts of the one-to-many establish that establish that many-to-many idea. Right? If that feels weird, that's okay. We're going to do a couple more of these in quick succession in the second half. And then we might code one up in SQL, but that's not really the point of today's lecture. Right? That good? Cool. So let's take and are no questions from Calgary? No. So let's do a 12-minute break. Right? So at 11, make a wish, and then we'll start lecture. Cool? Cool. Great. What's up? Welcome back. If I could just get, is it the super fancy one that just slams down? Yeah. It's a feature. Well, you know what it is? It's like if you're falling asleep and you're like, and that just wakes you up in the most violent way possible. Yeah. If I could just get confirmation from Calgary that like the audio and the video is going through, then we'll get right back. We'll get right back on it. I only have a couple things I want to show you, and I just kind of want to let you go, because it's like this is very much the kind of thing that you just need practice in. But if there are questions that you have, like ask questions, and we'll work through that. And we will write like a tiny bit of SQL just to start it. Ayo, it's your boy. Is okay, cool. Sam says good. Good to go. Too good to go. So what we ended kind of the first half with was we had this very crude beginnings of an entity relationship diagram, and then we went like, wow, look, did you know that it's possible? Like it's yes. Draw.io, being the excellent tool that it is, has stuff that allows you to make entity relationship diagrams pretty easily. So if you look over onto the side, we'll have, I mean, honestly, like you could use either this table one or this one here that says like PK, and that's fine. Either one's okay. I'm gonna use this one here. I'm showing you like the way that I would use this is drag it over. I'd say something like this is drinks, right? And then I'd be able to give it a primary key to say like, okay, maybe it's ID, right? Oh, whoops, I got that wrong. PK ID up here, and then all the other values here, I'm able to say, okay, well maybe a drink is going to have a name, and it's going to have a size, right? And then I can just delete the stuff that I don't need. And if I need to add more things, I can just think every time I go here and write some stuff. Oof. Oh. Right. Oh, you can like drag or like that size? No, like the actual size. Third item? Oh, like that? Yeah. Yeah, so you do that. I think you can also just, as you extend this though, yeah, like as you extend it, you just get more space to write. I think. Yeah. This, again, I always just do this straight up on whiteboard, or the other thing, like the thing that I do tend to use is this other website that I'll put in the Slack for you. It's called dbdiagram.io. Nothing necessarily amazing about this other than like, I don't like dragging around stuff. So when you use this, they have their own. All right, just let me use it. They have their own kind of like language that you can use to make yourself your little diagram. So for example, here is a diagram that encodes users and merchants and countries and order items. I just think they look kind of pretty, and you can download them as like PDFs. Right? You can also download them as just straight up SQL code, which is kind of nice. Pretty powerful. And then over here, you would write things like table, users, and then if you want to give it a short name, you can say as you. So then in other places I can say you. But what's cool about this is now anywhere I want, I can go, okay, well, users are also going to have a potato, which is a varchar. And when I go look at users, now have a potato that's a varchar. And so this is what I tend to use when I make my ERDs, just because I like going from whiteboard to then writing down a little bit of a specification. Makes it a little bit easier for me to edit. So that's just me. So what we'll do is we're going to start thinking about like just one more kind of example. I sort of Now, I want to get your input on this, especially you, Calgary. I sort of want to get your input on what do you think if we take like 10 minutes, right? Or we could do like 7 minutes, so it's like not as long, to just have you break into groups and do some ERDs, right? Like, does that sound okay if I give you like prompts and you get to pick from the prompts, make some ERDs, and then present them to each other? Right? Like, you don't have to present them to the class. I'll just then mix you up and you present your ERDs to each other. That sound good? Cool. So Vancouver's good with that, but Calgary, I want to know, like, does that work for you? Sam is writing. Sam says we can figure it out. Cool. So I will trust you with that. I'll set like a timer. Right? I'm gonna write out some. It doesn't matter to me if you use draw.io or if you just use your like notebook, right? Or if people want to use like a whiteboard or something, or if you want to use dbdiagram.io, right? Or something else. What I want you to do right now is like at you're actually conveniently in kind of tables. Put yourselves in groups of like 3 or 4. Please no more than 4. Right? And I want you to pick one of the several prompts that I'll have up here to make an ERD out of. Right? And you're not going to get this perfect. Right? This is okay. I want you to like discuss this. Then we're going to split up and put you in different groups where you will show the group that you're in now what you had done before, right, with your previous group. Does that sound good? So here are the prompts. So the prompts are, we're going to do a like quizzing system. Okay, where the quizzing system, just to give you a little bit of an idea, there are quizzes about topics. Right? It's up to you to decide whether a topic has a single quiz or many quizzes. I don't really care. And then people can take those quizzes many times. Right? People can attempt quizzes many times. Right? Maybe attempt. Right? So that's the quiz system. Right? And if you want to expand beyond this, then that's cool. I'll do another one. We'll do like a video game lobby. Right? We'll call it video game lobby. Yeah. This is a system where there are many current games happening. Right? Users can be in one game. Right? And we'll just say that like games have scores. Right? And then ultimately, I'll also have I made a mistake. This is users can list out mistakes they've made. Right? Mistakes have categories, and people can comment on mistakes that are posted. Right? So these are our like 3 prompts. Right? You just pick one. I'll set a timer for like 7 minutes or until people seem to like have kind of figured it out, and then we'll reconvene and distribute again. Does that sound good? Cool. So y'all are a group. You can probably squish in. Y'all are a group. Y'all would be a group of 5, so find a different group. Back and then back there. Cool. And then same goes with Calgary. I'm just gonna post these quizzing like the whoops. I'm gonna post the prompts into your Slack. So Calgary, I will I'll mute myself, but I'll come back in like 6 minutes just to check in on you, and then we'll get back together afterwards. Cool. All right, so that's about time for that. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this one more time in a sec. So I wanted you to start like getting into the process, kind of notice the things that are maybe sort of difficult, right? I know you may not have completed your ERD yet. That's totally fine. This stuff is never complete. What I want us to do now is to switch up groups so that you're with someone that you haven't been with before, like that you weren't with before. So Calgary, you're gonna have to do that yourselves. Over here in Vancouver, I'm just gonna number you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Back there is 1, 2, and then 3. And then this table over here, y'all, 1, 2, and then 3. So remember your number. That's where 1 is gonna meet. 2, 3, and then 4. Right, and then just convene there and share your ERDs with each other. Right. If you need to, like, take a picture of the ERD that you made, right, so that you can just walk people through it real quick. In Calgary, same idea. We're just gonna take a minute or two to do this, and then I'll actually have you just get back, like maybe in the groups that you're in at that time or whatever. I'll make you do another set of prompts after I show you a demo of my own. So I'll give you like 5 minutes for that. Take your time to share with each other, and then we'll reconvene again. All right. So Calgary, we're back. I don't know if your audio, like if you mute your TV in the meantime, so I'm just going to talk and Slack. Let me know when the audio is back. Oh, and Sam says we can hear you. Awesome. Loud and clear. Good stuff. So I hope that was kind of useful. I'm going to make you do that again. And I was walking around. I heard some really interesting things. Now, on purpose, I kind of made you do this before we did another kind of secondary demo. I want you to run into these issues. Did you find this this process called Jigsaw? Did you find this helpful? Do you like doing that? Cool, because we might try that out more often then. And then same in Calgary. I hope that worked out. You're gonna do it again in a sec. So, what kind of did you find? I heard some people talk about arguments. I think immediately here I heard someone say we just got into a big argument or something like that. What kind of stuff did you find that you were disagreeing about? Yeah, there you go. What kind of stuff did you find that you were disagreeing about, or were maybe not on the same page about? Do you want to share any of that with the rest of the group? No? Cool. That's totally fine. I did hear over on this side, you were saying that they're same group? All right. Well, what kind of stuff proved itself to be a little bit maybe more difficult or less trivial than you thought it was going to be? Was this just easy, or y'all just pros?
Something that I noticed is that coming together, there was a slightly different approach in my head when I scanned over one of those topics.
Mm-hmm.
End up doing the same one, so I didn't go all the way to implementation. But I thought about it sort of in a flipped way, where it was a quiz could be about many different topics versus a topic having a set of quizzes. So it was just the inverted one-to-many relation.
Okay, no, that's excellent, actually. So I'll rephrase that for Calgary because the audio doesn't go through. So Ted was saying here over on the quizzing system, this word that says quizzes, those are the quizzes about topics, right? Quizzes about topics. You can kind of interpret this in a couple different ways. You could say that a quiz is about many different topics. Or you could say that a topic can have many different quizzes. Maybe there's only one quiz per topic. Maybe there's only one topic per quiz. And I left that on purpose, sort of weird to make that process a little bit more difficult, because that really is a place where you stop and you say, okay, well, we're really going to have to figure this out, because there's no way that we can actually turn this into code. There's no way that we can turn this into an ERD unless we as a group come to a consensus about what this means. Right? Sometimes, say you're working on your midterm, that means you and your group members have to sit down and talk. Other times, if you're working for a client, that means you're going to have to escalate the issue and go to the client and see, okay, what is it that you mean? Because if we're not all on the same page about the requirements, right, then the code that we build for you isn't actually going to fulfill the things that you want. This happens more often than you would think, right? Language means stuff, and specifically, one of the things that I like about what you said is, you didn't exactly say this, but it's what you meant, is language means different things to different people. Right? And going into software, sometimes people have a very black and white view of the world, right? And they just think, oh, well, the way that I interpret this is the correct way. Fun fact, it's probably not. There's also probably no immediately correct way. It's just about coming to a consensus and an agreement. And the best way that I've found to achieve that process is to have a group kind of deliberation process. Right? And making it part of your process of people having input, and for people to take yourselves through those user stories. Right? I want to take you very quickly through me doing one of these, just so you can see at a high level how I do it. Right? And then we'll break and we'll do one more of these. We'll have slightly less time because I don't want to keep you over time. And so here's Nima's. Nima's demo. And I'm not going to show you the answers to the ones that you built. I kind of went around here in Vancouver and people pretty much got it right. There's, again, no right or wrong answer, but it's just too time consuming for me to go through each one of them. But do share with each other. So for Nima's demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself through an idea of, we're going to do a forum, right? This is a forum where people post questions, right? And questions, and other people answer. Right? People pose questions, people answer. Questions can have upvotes. Right? So questions can have upvotes, and then we'll say that questions have like topic tags. Right? So a question can be tagged as this is about JavaScript and math, stuff like that. And so I take myself through this and I look at, okay, what are the words like the nouns that pop up? I'm seeing words like people. It's, for example, that might be a user. I'm seeing that some people ask questions, some people answer. So there's questions, and then there's also answers. Right? I'm seeing the word upvotes, right? And I'm seeing the word topic tags. Right? And I just pull out the nouns. I pull out the nouns, and I throw those into just boxes. So let's go ahead and go into, I'll use this thing here. I'm just making you blank one. And I'm just going to drag over the stuff that I was writing here. So people, questions, answers, just drag it. So I just like to start off by bringing in tables for each one of the nouns, and I don't even think about how they're connected to each other yet. So I might go ahead and say people, and the common way to do this in an ERD, and then when you put this into a database, is that these are going to be plurals, right? Plurals, and then generally in databases, we'll do them like lowercase. Right? Lowercase, and if you have multiple words, like topic tags, we'll do those with snake case. And so we got people, we've got topic tags, we've got questions. We've also got answers. And then let's do one for posts. Posts and upvotes. Oh wait, no, posts. Upvotes was what I meant. Upvotes. Upcoats. Upvotes. It's like a winter-themed Reddit. Have an upcoat. So notice I just toss these out sort of randomly, and then I take myself through the process of like, how do these things even sort of connect? Like, for example, people and topic tags. I'm not even bringing in the like nice ERD lines. Like, do people and topic tags connect? Now, people don't have topic tags, but people do post questions. Right? And people can also post answers. Right? So maybe that's a thing. We'll just answers. I know questions for sure have topic tags, right? Because questions are for sure about something. I drag this out all the way, and I'm seeing that maybe the order that I kind of put the stuff in sort of makes a difference, just so that it gets less messy. So topic tags are definitely related to questions, and then upvotes. And this is a place where I might ask myself, and I might like discuss with teammates. The description here says that questions, down here, questions can have, and then it's just sort of cut off, but it says questions can have upvotes. So in one way or another, I'm going to have to connect questions and upvotes together. One way or another, those two things are going to be connected. Then I might also ask myself, like, are answers able to be upvoted? I might go back to the client and say, is that a thing that you want? Maybe the client says, no, only questions can have upvotes, and comments are just there. I'm going to say, okay, like this is a good start. Right? This is a good start. And to make this like a little bit more comfortable for myself, I might move things around a little bit so it's not as messy. Wow, that just made it worse. There you go. And you put a lot of work into making this kind of pretty and nice. And I don't even like thinking about foreign keys or any of that right off the bat. Like I just go ahead and I turn these into, as we were seeing over on this side, I like to turn them just directly into my like one-to-many relationships and all that, where I say, okay, a question has many topic tags, maybe. So, because I can tag a question as being both JavaScript and math. Okay, maybe that's the thing that I do. Cool. Please. whatever. You no. Okay, so a question might be about JavaScript and math, but then I might also ask myself, like, do I necessarily want to be able to find all of the questions for a particular topic? I might have a table inside of here, but at the moment, that's not really a thing that I'm going to try to do. Right? And I go, okay, well, upvotes. I've written that upvotes are connected to questions, right? So I might say, okay, well, how many upvotes does a question have? An upvote is going to have, where'd you go? There you go. An upvote is going to have many questions, or a question is going to have many upvotes, so we might do that. And then each upvote, oops. Why do you do this? Cool. Each upvote is specifically for only one question. And then I might take this process and think about, okay, what if I wanted to see who upvoted a particular question? Is that a thing that my ERD encodes right now? If I go to a question and I ask who upvoted this, well, I can see the upvotes, but I can't see who they're for. So I'm going to need another line that connects people to upvotes. Right? So I might go people, upvotes, questions. I'm trying to show you that there isn't like an immediate right answer to this. This is very much about you toss it on, you take a step back, and you just ask a bunch of questions, right? And then you go forward and you tune a little bit. You take a step back and you ask a whole bunch more questions, right? And eventually, you end up with something that at least somewhat hits the goals that you're going for. But you will find that as you come up with different goals, the stuff changes a little bit. I want to very, very quickly show you basically like the syntax that one would go through for encoding this, like, because these are tables, and then they have columns in there. I just wanted to show you the Postgres syntax or the SQL syntax for having something like this, because that's what you're working on today. I'm not actually going to run it. If we Google, because why would Nima remember things? If we Google like SQL and then foreign keys, and we'll see. Here you go. Something like the following. This is in MySQL as opposed to Postgres, but the syntax is the same. Create table orders. You're going to be creating tables today, right? So each one of those like boxes is going to be a create table something. And you list out all the things that are about that particular thing. So you might have a primary key that is ID. So you may go ID is an integer, and it's not null. Like you can't make that null. And then all the other values that you kind of need. And then at the end of it, at the bottom part, right? So like after you've listed all the stuff, what I would recommend to make your tables actually be connected to each other is you list out what the primary key is, which is often the ID. And then there's one line, right, for each foreign key. Right? So I would say in this case here, an order is by a person. Right? So I have the person ID, and then at the bottom I have to say, hey, heads up, the person ID is a foreign key which references the person ID in the persons table. Right? So your syntax is going to look very similar to this. And you'll be given the actual format for this in Compass. But I want you to take a look at this. And this is MySQL. If I remember correctly, in Postgres, it's going to be persons dot person ID as opposed to a parenthesis. But the structure of it is very much identical. And so I want you to kind of think of the code as the very last part of this. The SQL code is unimportant because as long as you have the diagram, you can turn that into any database, right? Whether that's MySQL, whether that's SQL Server, Oracle, whatever you want. Now, we have a couple minutes left. Do you all feel good about maybe doing this process again with 3 different prompts? Does that sound like a worthwhile thing? Cool. OK, so y'all in Vancouver are now in fairly big groups, so you'll have to split yourselves off into groups of 3 again or 4 and go to separate places. Same thing goes for Calgary. I'm gonna put the prompts into Slack, and I'll leave my example of my initial ERD. And again, notice how rough it is. I didn't go through and I didn't actually put in columns. I'm just dealing at a very high level. And we need to try something like that. So the 3 prompts that I'm going to give you this time. 3 prompts. I'm going to give you. One of them is going to be a record store. It can sell like albums, right? And albums may be either CDs, vinyl, or they might be cassette. Right, so that's one of them. Right. Another one is going to be a like Playland style, like a theme park. Right? And the theme park has lots of rides, snacks, and like people who go there to have a good time. And then we'll do a last one, which is going to be I was going to say like a dating app for people on the bus. That was one of the things I wanted to build this past weekend. We're going to do the last one is going to be like a school system. Nah. Parking lot. There's going to be a parking lot system. So I want you to have lots of lots, right? Lots of cars, lots of spots in each lot, right? And stuff like that. And expand on either one of these 3. Does that sound good? So in Calgary, I'll have you again just split into groups of 3 or 4. Vancouver, split into groups of 3 or 4. I'll give you slightly less time, right? And then we'll just
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
something. How you doing, man? Big winner. Big winner. Oh, you heard it.
We were also thinking of separating it into snacks.
Heads up, everyone. Just real quick. You're not cut off from this. You can continue working on it, but I didn't want to keep you officially too late. So if I could get from Calgary, just are you online? Or can you hear me? I wanted to just like close thoughts real quick and then let you just get back to this and share as you see fit. But I want to make sure that Calgary is on first. Maybe not. Hello. Is the audio and video working? All right, we'll give it like 10 more seconds. If Calgary doesn't respond, that's fine. I'll just talk with them offline or like off video. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. I just wanted to say like this process here, the ERD process, continue doing this. I highly recommend that as you enter midterm projects, right? Just like we did right now, we don't pick one thing. You like pick multiple kind of project ideas and ERD them out real quick. And if you time box it, you can get through ERDs for like every single one of the possible projects. And then as a group, sit down and look at which one actually feels the most exciting to you. Because a lot of people judge the project by like just the cover. They'll look at the name, or they'll look at whatever, or they'll say like, oh, I don't want to do that one, that looks too hard, or I don't want to do that one, that doesn't seem interesting. Do your like due diligence in this process. And if you have 7 projects, and you set like 6 minutes per project, you can get through ERDs in an hour, right? And that's a ton of value for you. So I did want to make that note. As far as this stuff goes, there's again no real like correct answer other than there's no such thing as a many-to-many relationship. If you have a many-to-many, those are 2 one-to-many relationships, right? So that's going to be in the notes for you to play around with. And then ultimately, this is something you talked about, I think, in the notes. But where does the many, like, where does the foreign key go? On which side? It goes on the many side. So just remember that. The foreign key is always going to go on the many side. But you'll notice that as you're making the ERDs, you won't even necessarily be thinking about that. It'll just happen naturally, right? But if you need some kind of like rule, the foreign key goes on the many side. So that's it from me for today. Enjoy SQL and get hyped about the midterm projects because they're a lot of fun. And I can't remember if I see you again before the midterms. But what I recommend for the next couple of minutes is kind of finish this process up. And then maybe when you get back to your desks where you usually do your work, take a minute or 2 to share with each other in your ERDs. Cool? Did you find this portion like useful? Should we do this kind of stuff again? Awesome. Have a great rest of the day. Notes will be out real soon. And if you have questions, I and the mentor is around all day. Okay. Thanks, everyone.